Hello and welcome to episode 18. It seems like an eternity since episode 17. Far too long. Quite frankly, got out of the habit of producing these. Other things got in the way and couldn't prioritise the time to sit down and hit the record button. But one of my students yesterday, day before, someday this week, said it was his highlight of YouTube and he subscribed to it. So this is for you, Stam. You've inspired me to get back on and record these. So what's been happening? Well, obviously squatting. What else would I have been doing? So relatively happy with progress since our last conversation. I'm on Reg Park's 5x5, so that's 5 sets of squats or 5 repetitions, hence 5x5. First set of 5 is 70%, 75%, or no, that's not true, 50% of your 1RM, 5RM, sorry. I'm making a lot of mistakes today. So basically 50%, 75%, and then 100% of your 5RM for 3 sets of the 100%. So I was on 125 kilos for 5 for what seemed like a long time, not as long as the 1x20. In the last few weeks, I've hit that kind of threshold, which was to move on. So I took a bit of a velocity-based approach to the progression. So the rule was that I had to complete all 5 repetitions of all 3 sets above the cut-off threshold of 0.3 meters per second. So even if I did all 5 reps of all 3 sets, but the last rep of each was below that threshold, that didn't meet the criteria. So that happened a few weeks ago. Moved on to 130. So the kind of elephant in the room is: have you gotten stronger, and are you any closer to double bodyweight squatting? Well, let's have a look. So I did a load velocity test. That was kind of mid-January. So again, this is why it's been far too long. And these lines are a little bit kind of confusing. But basically what I do is do an incremental test of, I think it's either 1 or 2 repetitions of 70, 90, 110, and 130. I don't tend to do 2 repetitions of 110, 130, but of the lower velocities, I basically do 2 reps and choose the fastest one. Why it's a bit of a misleading picture is the upper line is the predicted load at 0 velocity, which is a hypothetical load. You can never move at zero velocity. In theory, it's infinite amount of weight can be moved because you're not moving anything. But it's a mathematical number rather than a practical number. The one below is this orange line is what I anticipate doing at 0.25 meters per second, which I've kind of put down there as an arbitrary speed that most people would do the 1RM at. And some people go a little bit slow and some people will have to be a bit faster, but the literature is kind of quite consistent with that as well. And if you look at my heaviest lifts, they're around the 0.25 meter per second mark, and I don't think I could be prescribing at 0.23. There won't be much of a difference. So that the upper line says it's gone down a little bit. The bottom line says it's gone up a little bit since last time, but it's kind of sitting at just below kind of 160. Now, when I first started this journey, it was in the kind of the 130 mark, kind of the mid 130. So that's kind of effectively a 25 kilo kind of increase in theoretical 1RM strength. So yes, I've got stronger, and yes, I've gotten close to double bodyweight squatting. Have I am as close as I would like to be? No. Has that pace been fast? No. Have I been diligent and really consistent with training over that time? No. Have I done my best? Yes. Because I'm a 45 or will be 45 in a couple of weeks' time. I've got a full-time job and 2 young children, so it's always that tempered by increasing age, increasing business, stuff going on, external factors, and that is a life of somebody who isn't a full-time athlete. And sometimes I think if you read the literature about kind of the rate of change, rate of increase, it's often done by undergraduate sports science students who don't have a lot of complexity in their lives, hence why they can sign up for training studies. So there's always kind of what you expect versus what's real. The thing I've really kind of noticed over the last 2.5, 3 years of doing this process is how variable I am between days. So just give you a relatively recent example. I started on 1:30, came out of the traps like a house on fire, absolutely kind of about flying. Thought, wow, this is good. I've progressed more than I thought. And then the following week, which was last week, I felt like a bus had hit me. I could barely move the bar. I think I did 5 reps in total, not 5 reps per set. It was horrific. And I come back in this week and it's kind of gone flying back up again. So day to day, week to week, I am variable. I'm not consistent. I can remember going back into my mid-20s and I could just put any load on the bar. I wouldn't have to change loads between weeks or between days. I could just, right, that's what I'm doing today, that's what I'm doing today, that's what I did last week, that's what I'll do this week. It didn't really change me that much. But it's really, the older you get, the more variable you get, is what I'm finding. That other people might be different, but that's just me. So let's have a look at some more numbers, shall we? Because that's kind of what we're interested in. So what I've got on this blue line at the top is the max velocity. Take all the different reps at 125 that I did, and this was the fastest rep. So what it looks like, kind of, how am I starting this phase compared to the previous one? Well, I actually started unbelievably well last time. I think it was like hitting 0.5, and again, that was the first 2 sessions that I did. And then it very quickly kind of bottomed out and kind of like plummeted down towards the 0.25s and 3s. So it was like, yeah, I think there, see some of those sessions there, that the fastest rep I was doing wasn't in the 0.4s. So how I started this one, is that any better? Well, last week is this kind of dip. And I'm not taking it as a bit of a true reflection of who I am. It was just I was exhausted last week and for whatever reason I just couldn't get moving. But I'm pretty quickly up in the mid 4s. So I kind of drew a bit of a parallel, drew a cross, and this 8 rep series is the first time I did a 0.44, and as you can see it dipped down, so I'm not getting overly carried away. But this is on an upward trend. The key difference really is the first time I did 0.44 at 125, I can only manage 8 reps of that, so I had a good 1 rep, but I couldn't do many others. Well, actually, the first time I did 0.44 at 130, I finished all 15 repetitions. So whilst my peak velocity is not quite where it was at the end of it, actually my capacity to do that is pretty good. So if we go to the next slide, so that, again, the blue lines is the reps completed at 125. So this is the first however many weeks of sessions that I did, and the orange line is again the comparative 130 for the same kind of starting. So it's not ignore the kind of times at the bottom, they're irrelevant. So it took me all of that time. So the first time I did 125, I did all 15 reps again, thought, well, this is easy, and then boom, reality kicked in. And it took me to the very end of that kind of few months to be able to get back up to the 15 reps again. But actually, I'm almost up at 15 repetitions straight away. Again, I'm kind of discounting last week because I felt terrible. But this week, 2 sessions in so far this week, and I've done 14 reps on Monday and 15 reps yesterday. And decent velocities in that. So I'm feeling, actually, there is very clear signs that progression has been made. Yes, the load has gone up, but I've not kind of regressed massively backwards because the load has increased. So I haven't seen as big a drop off in velocities, and I've not seen as big a drop off in capacity to do reps as I did when I first started this 5x5. And as I get closer and closer to doing singles rather than sets of 5, I'm hoping that actually that peak number, that max squat number starts to go up, because if you imagine kind of how I've been training up until now, I haven't really been focusing on max squatting strength. It's capacity building up capacity to do more and more reps, which now looks like it's starting to pay off. I can add load and not drop down the cliff in terms of how much work I can do. The more work I can do, the more benefit I can get from doing more reps at higher loads. And again, I'm not training close to failure. As soon as I get an indication I'm getting close to failure, I'm stopping. So that's why the velocity tool becomes really, really useful. So I'm now starting to feel like actually I've got a bit of a grasp of training. I've got a bit of a grasp of what I'm going, and feeling quite positive about what's going to happen next. Now, who knows whether that'll carry on, and who knows what will come around the corner, and who knows whether I'll ever get any closer to the kind of mythical 200 kilos. But as it sits now, I'm looking fairly positive. Quite an interesting week coming up. I've got back into weightlifting competitions again, so I've got a competition in about 10 days' time. So this week is my last heavy week of training, and then next week is a taper. Now I need to think about what that taper includes, because obviously I don't want to lose momentum with the squats. So it might well be that I don't do 5x5, but I do want to still get a few reps in at 130. It may only be 3 doubles at the end of a snatch session, end of a clean and jerk session, just to feel like I've got that, I've maintained that leg strength that I've been working on, while I look at more speed strength speed qualities and technical execution next week. And then it's how do I come back? What's the impact of the competition? Because I always feel a bit gassed out by weightlifting comps. If anyone's ever done them, you do an awful lot of volume on the day. You don't realise it sneaks up on you by the time you've warmed up for the snatch, and then you kind of come down, then you warm back up again for the clean and jerk, and then you do 3 main lifts. And then again the testosterone and kind of adrenaline buzz you get from being on the platform, it knocks out of you for a few days. So whether the next week afterwards again is what's going to happen with that, I don't know. But I'm okay with that because I enjoy the weightlifting comp, and it's all relatively complementary. It's not like I've gone for like a half marathon and it's kind of completely polar opposite of what I want to be doing. So yeah, it's been a bit of a long one today to kind of catch up where I've been. Generally speaking, going pretty well. Could be better, could be a lot worse.